Welcome back everyone to Data Science for Everyone. Today we're going to be talking about grouping and group by objects. Let's get started. So specifically we're going to be talking about grouping, and again the process is split, apply, combined, or splitting, applying, and combining. And this is where we take some sort of data frame and we're going to split it into some sort of groups. Then we will apply some sort of aggregation function, and then we will combine it back together. Now this looks like a relatively complicated process, but it's actually extremely simple. We have done this several times actually throughout the course, but now I decided it's better to really dive in and discuss it a little bit more. So first we import pandas as PD. I'm going to make up a quick data set here. Okay, whoops. I need to actually also import numpy as np. And so here, if we look at this data set, it's very simple. Okay, we have our columns A, B, C, D. Now we have groups. Okay, we have multiple here. We have foo and bar. Okay, and we have 1, 2, 3. So we can do all kinds of things with this, but let's just kind of go about this in the most basic manner that we have. So if we use the GroupBy method, I need to give it a level, and I will give this the level A for now. Now, if you notice, this creates a data frame grouped by object. Okay, it's technically a generator, and we have to, in order to get some sort of information on it, we have to have an aggregate method or an aggregate function applied to it. Otherwise, it's not going to do us any good whatsoever. We wind up getting this kind of undefinable object here. So then what we use with that is something like sum. Okay, so we would get the results like this. And so here we're grabbing the results based on foo and bar, and it's adding up all of these numbers for C and D, and it is ignoring the strings. Now we can also use multiple columns. Okay, so we can create a hierarchical index. And so an example like this is pretty nice if you think about it maybe as like states or provinces in a country, or you can talk about it as maybe here, for example, A is actually a baseball team, and then B are its players. So you, for example, if you're grabbing stats and you have all the stats individually, but you want to group them by, two different groupings. Now, another way to talk about this is also when we're talking about this is doing some sort of transformation. Sometimes you want to, and I probably need to write these up here a little bit so I can keep some notes for you guys. Things that we also would like to talk about, you know what, let me do them down here a little bit. I have some more notes I'd like to add in for you guys. So, let me just grab this from my notes and I will put it in for you guys. So we have, for example, aggregation. Okay, and now this term itself is actually going to be talking about creating something like means, sizes, counts, anything that brings together the data. Then we also have transformation. And again, let me just get this set up here really quickly so that we can see everything in one spot. So what we actually have here, so the next part that we need to talk about maybe is doing transformation, okay? So doing some group specific calculations. So for example, sometimes we need to normalize our data in some way or standardize the data. So when we're talking about z-scores from statistics, but we need to do it by each group because it doesn't make sense, for example, to do any type of filling of NAs or standardization when the group has its own specific statistics. Okay, for example, if you're filling in the mean of maybe population age, okay, well, it doesn't do you any good to do the mean of the population age for all countries in the world. Everyone has their own specific, for example, death rates, birth rates, average ages. So then you would need to calculate that up based on each group's specifics. So then we also have filtration. So we want to maybe discard groups, maybe do some group-wise computation. So for example, giving true, false values depending on group statistics. And we also want to filter out data based on something like the group itself, okay? So let's maybe do another quick example here. I'm going to overwrite that data frame. And so if we're looking at this, we're talking about birds, okay? So, or animals in that sense, okay? So we have something like the class, whether it's a bird, a mammal. So we have the names itself is falcon, parrot, lion, monkey, leopard. And then we have its, for example, its order. So what type of kind of genus that it actually belongs to, as well as its max speed. So if we want to do some examples with this, we could do something like, I was going to call it G for grouped. Group by, and here I want to group it by class. Whoops. And you know what? Let me do this real quick. Let me do group by G class, and then I'll do something like G order, and do something like df.group by order. Now, okay, the default for these groupings is on the axis is equal to 0. Okay, so it's usually doing it, it's going to group them by each of these rows. Now you can also do something and you want to maybe order them by the columns, okay? And so that can be axis is equal to 1, or you can also say axis is equal to columns. And so in this instance, I actually will order this one by columns. And then we'll do one more here, and I'll just say both. And then here we're going to do it by class and by order. So, and let's run these, and let's just take a look. And I'm going to do something like maybe the mean. So this is for the class, and notice here it just split it up between the bird and the mammal. Now if I do the same thing then for the order, and we run this, oh, we're going to get a problem, okay? Because if we look here, I want to take a look at it. Again, it is still that geometric object, but whenever it is doing this by the column here, okay, it's not actually understanding what it wants, what we want to do with it, okay? So it can cause a little bit of chaos. So maybe we can try something like sum, and we can do that because again, there's nothing here that actually does it. So it's going to be doing all of these orderings in here, but there's no real value to it. Let's also see about, we'll do one more example with both, and I'll go through some other examples as well. So let's do G, and we want to do both here, and then we can do, again, the mean. So notice here, we're gathering up each of these in order. So we have our bird class with our orders for each of those birds, our mammals with their orders as well. And then based on that, we also have our means. And again, we can do this for sum or anything else. And you may want to eventually change, for example, the naming of the columns, because this doesn't give us anything for, it doesn't say, oh, this is the mean of max speed. So we'll probably need to rename this column as well, but we'll talk about renaming conventions probably at a later time. Let me go on and do a couple more examples here, a little bit more in depth, okay? So let's say that we have a data set here, and so for example, as you guys know, I'm a professor, okay? So these are the schools that, let's say that you have professors, and we have, for example, our numbers of publications, okay? Now again, this is all faked data, but it's just something that you guys can get an example of. Now, if we want to use this GroupBy method, we can do it on the rows, okay? This creates our basic GroupBy objects. Now, if we want to do something like by school, we can grab the mean number of publications for each school. And we can also do this again in just a one-liner. okay? It just depends on how you want to do it. If you know that you're going to be doing a bunch of different statistics, okay, you can do that. We can even do, for example, here we can do the standard deviation. Okay, and again, any statistic that you could ever really think about. So, but again, I would just leave that up to you guys to give it an example. So notice something here, okay? It's actually, whenever I'm calculating these statistics by school, it's doing it by school on the numerical example itself. But whenever we do something like min, where it can pick out a single point, it's also going to be giving us, for example, that professor's information, because that it's not necessarily an aggregation function. It's just a selecting and ordering that it's doing. So it will also give us, for example, who that person is that had the max publications and the min publications. Now, in a business sense, you can talk about this as maybe you want to pick out, for example, your number one sellers or number one buyers, and you want to maybe give them a gift or something like that. You also maybe want to cut clients that have the worst performance. Then that's something that you can do with these max and min type items as well. Now, if you do the count, you notice it will actually count out how many unique individuals there are in each of these schools in this data set. Now, one of my favorites to do, though, is using the describe method, because when you run this describe method on for example, on this data set, you get all of the statistics that you normally would want for every group. And so this is a fantastic, beautiful way to describe your data. Now, for example, this only had one item here, publication, right? Well, that doesn't do us a whole lot of good if we have multiple. So let me actually go and I will add in another example here to this, a numerical example, so we can see what happens. I don't know, we'll do age or something. Okay, I'll do something weird. Let's just grab this, put that in there, and we'll make them 40, 50. It should, I want to at least make a little bit of sense. 50, 26, and 76. And you're wondering, yes, I have had professors that are in their 80s before. I've had them that they're in their 90s before. So it's not really uncommon. So if we rerun these, you can see here that it will run them for each of the numerical attributes that we've set out. Okay, so let me go back to the one that I wanted to show you, and that's this describe. Now, if I run this now with describe, yeah, whoops. Why did you not want to do that? Run. Oh, it's because I didn't rerun. Where's my GroupBy? Here, I didn't rerun this. There we go. So now let me go back down and rerun this describe. And notice what happens here now. We actually have two sets. We have, oops, and I still need to scoot up just a little bit more, right there. So we have, this is the publication data right here, okay? And then everything from over here is the age descriptive statistics. So this is, again, this is a fantastic way to be able to look at your data and grab your descriptive statistics. Now, it does have a tendency to make, when you have, I don't know, 20 or 30 different variables, it has a tendency to make this really long, and that is a bit of a problem. So I would usually suggest, when you start having a lot of variables in there, just grab in and do .t for transpose, or you can actually type out transpose as well, but I just like to use the .t and rerun this, and notice now it makes everything nice and pretty, where you have your groupings now up top here, and then you have your variables down here at the side, and then you have your descriptive statistics. And this saves you a lot of space, particularly when you're working with larger sets of data, because again, then you're not having to scroll off the screen, or if you have you don't have to put your tables in landscape format for them to fit or anything else. So again, now if you notice here, if I actually do that, I do the type of this, it actually is a data frame. So any type of this describe method here gives us a data frame. So then we can use any type of functionality that we have, okay, that we would with other methods. So let me give another bit of a description. Again, here's just, it's going to be the same thing I put in here, number of years of service. Okay, so again, we have this nice example. Here's another example of using that transpose, and I'm doing this all in one-liners, if you can see here. So I'll rerun this one just to show you. Again, it's a lot easier to read than this one. Notice that we have to kind of scroll a little bit here and there to see all of the data. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.